A lot has been going on with SpaceX Starship for the past few weeks now, but what is most interesting is that SpaceX has finally launched the 390 feet tall Starship rocket from the launch mount into the sky. It was incredibly exciting to watch the Starship roar from the launch mount, firing the entire 33 Raptor engines and emitting massive storms of soot and dust that shattered the base of the launch pad. Reaction from SpaceX fans that watched the live liftoff from Boca Chica was overwhelming as everyone hailed the flying Starship in excitement. Unfortunately, Starship exploded in midair and couldn't complete its first mission to orbit round the Earth. And that's no big deal because, certainly, failure is expected on the first try, but excitement is guaranteed, just as Elon Musk stated. What actually happened to the booster rocket that got exploded in midair? And what happened to 5 or 6 Raptor engines that stopped firing during the launch? Does it mean SpaceX used a broken super heavy booster rocket during the first Starship orbital launch? Let's find out answers to all these questions in today's video. A minute after the Starship was loaded with propellant, the Raptor engine was seen chilled and clouds of propellant leaving the Starship body. However, after a few seconds the countdown clock was reset, and a hold time of T-40 seconds for a few small issues, like one the booster pressurization was not quite what SpaceX needed, which was resolved shortly. It was later observed that the second stage pressurization was not energized and engineers started working on some final purging. But maybe we can question why SpaceX engineers didn't take their time to vet all these minor glitches during the static fire test before rushing to commence the test flight. Do they intend to launch a broken booster rocket? Just at roughly 8 seconds left on the countdown clock, the Raptor engine startup sequence initiated and all 33 Raptor engines ignited as the clock hit 0. All the engines began firing. Starship remained on the pad for another 8 full seconds before finally lifting off from the pad. It means the super heavy booster took 8 seconds to fire 16 million pounds of thrust at maximum power, and the sound of 33 Raptor engines firing simultaneously is louder than the sounds of 10 commercial airplanes landing at the same time. The thrust power from the Raptor engines crushes a lot of concrete at the base of the launch pad, and debris of concrete was seen flying around. When Starship finally lifted off above the launch tower, the company's camera captured 3 of the super heavy Raptor engines that were not firing, included 2 of the outer ring engines closer to each other and 2 outer engines right next to each other. There is every possibility that since the Raptor engines shoot a very powerful force, the base of the launch pad must have been destroyed, shooting concrete debris to the environment, and some hitting a few Raptor engines that got damaged. But SpaceX designed the Starship in a way that it can still continue its flight even though some engines are damaged. So, the Starship doesn't need all 33 Raptors to fly into orbit. Fortunately to know, Starship continued to accelerate and gain altitude at T+29 seconds until small explosion was seen at the outer ring. Raptor witnessed a fuse spark that emitted debris everywhere, and after a few seconds, a bright flash of light was seen rushing out of the Raptor nozzle when SpaceX graphic updated and highlighted that another Raptor engine got damaged. It was announced that Starship had reached the first max Q, which has to do with moment the Starship experienced peak mechanical stress on the rocket. Just at the same time, one of the boosters got destroyed, making it about 6 boosters that got destroyed during the flight. Hence, 6 of the booster shutdowns totally the moment some Raptor engines showed a bright glow coming from in between the engines. After some seconds, it was seen on the graphic screen that 6 of the first stage engines were no longer providing thrust for the rocket to continue to accelerate. Were provided some incredible views looking at the upper stage's 6 Raptor engines along with the Earth below from an external camera. SpaceX was preparing for the super heavy booster to disconnect, and when it was time and the cutoff was announced at 2 minutes and 48 seconds into the flight. Unluckily, the booster did not detach itself from the ship, and the remaining engines that was not damaged continued to fire. A few seconds later, the booster started pointing downward and showing irregular maneuvers since it has already lost its trajectory and started losing control, but managed to force itself, like forcing the booster rocket to separate from the ship. That was not feasible. So, the flight timing was distracted. Not only that, but it appears the booster didn't release the ship to continue its journey. It kept grip of the ship. Perhaps the separation protocol was not honored. So, it's safer to say that the Starship booster broke down at this point. The booster attempted to perform a flip maneuver, but it seems it didn't work as designed. However, if the booster made a successful separation, it would make a one-turn flip, fire itself back to Earth, and slowly submerge itself down before a controlled splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico. The upper stage, on the other hand, would journey round the Earth for over an hour after igniting its engines before re-entering the Earth's atmosphere and make an impact to the water off the coast of Hawaii. But a space expert will admit that a successful launch happens when a rocket fully liftoff from the launch pad, and its tail fully leaving the launch pad, and head above 20 meters from its launch tower. So, we can celebrate the fact that Starship successfully launched, but did not complete its missions before crashing into flames. Starship flew for 4 minutes, reaching an altitude of about 39 kilometers and a maximum speed of 2,150 kilometers per hour. Unfortunately, at T+4 minutes after the loss of vector control, which resulted in some interesting acrobatics, the flight termination system activated and Starship was completely destroyed over the Gulf of Mexico. Starship, a beautiful machine that was under development for over a decade, now came to an ugly end on April 20th when SpaceX's sleek, silvery, 40-story tall Starship rocket was consumed in flames in an orange and white fireball. By the way, Elon Musk was full of excitement when the vehicle that will take humans to Mars finally lifted itself from the launch pad and flew into the sky. He made it known in one of his tweets on the 24/th/sup of April, saying, "Hard to believe Starship actually did launch on April 20th, LOL." However, during the launch, SpaceX decided not to use a flame diverter or a water sound suppression system at the launch pad. All they had were some little sprayers on the pad itself which could shoot jets of nitrogen and water, but the sprayers couldn't suppress any flying debris from the base of the launch mount. So, this idea begs the question, why did SpaceX decide not to use the water suppression system to do the perfect job of pushing down any upward object that hit any of the engines? Since the sprayers didn't just do the trick in this case, that is more reason why when the 33 Raptor engines ignited, it bored a dip hole into the ground beneath the launch pad, and there's some spectacular pictures showing a 10 or 20-foot deep hole drilled by those engines, and during the digging progress, which lasted about 8 seconds before the Starship liftoff, not all of the concrete was being reduced to dust. Some began flying around into the environment and also hitting the Raptor engines and destroying the assembling. In some launch footage, you can actually see debris being launched all the way out to the ocean close by. A similar incident occurred back in 2020 when Starship SN8 was static fired. This static fire test produced a lot of concrete debris, and a piece of that debris got kicked into a pneumatic line that controlled the pressurization systems of the ship. Without these lines, the ship was unable to regulate pressure, and the header tank began overpressurizing. If not for a burst disk, SN8 would have blown up. Our main assumption is that the first few engines were brought down by scattered debris from the launch mount that violently hit the damaged Raptor engine and made them fail. But on the other hand, each Raptor has a flash shield surrounding it, which should keep any debris from an exploding engine contained. If one of those shields were to fail, debris could have been kicked out and damaged another engine. You can see that many of the damaged engines had another engine fail right next to them, so it's likely that this finding is true. Did SpaceX actually intended to launch the Starship on a broken booster? Take a look into how SpaceX Starship explosion will change everything Elon Musk said. Just click on the video.